Hello everybody and welcome to my video. We will be doing a distance test with the Mavic Mini. Right now we are in New Iberia, Louisiana, or should I say just east of New Iberia, Louisiana, over some sugarcane fields. The point of the video today is to see exactly how far I can take the Mavic Mini without much interference from the cities that I normally fly it in. Out here we should have a pretty good range of visibility and be able to go for a pretty long ways without getting any kind of interference. I believe we're about an altitude of about 40 or 50 feet right now. The only really thing to worry about are some power lines that may come across the fields. Right now, I believe the sugarcane's been planted for about maybe 6 or 7 months now, and it should be harvested sometime in the fall. I just think it looks really nice and pretty, and all these rows and sort of sprouting out. It should get about 2 or 3 times as high as it is right now. Right now I'm trying to come in as close to the sugarcane as I can get and still maintain signal. I think I was able to get just about 2 or 3 feet above the top of the sugarcane, maybe a feet at about 6, 7, 8 feet above the ground. And start coming back up. Yeah, all around where we are is just nothing but sugarcane. We took off from a house that's located on the Bayou Teche and went straight forward while sitting on the front porch. And you can see they alternate the fields where they grow the crops in, so they have some that they cycle on and off. And if you can see out in the distance, there's another row of power lines. So right now I'm adjusting altitude to make sure that I can safely clear those. I also want to make sure that my return to home altitude is well clear of those, so in the eventual case that I do lose signal, I'm able to get the drone back safely, because the Mavic Mini does not have front detection or front obstacle sensors, so you have to make sure that when you're flying the drone, you make sure to survey the surroundings and make sure that your return to home altitude is at a safe level. Just look at those fields, very pretty. The good news about this location too is that if the drone were to, lose power, connection, or for some reason need to make an emergency landing, it's pretty wide open here and it would be very easy to retrieve the drone. In the short few weeks that I've had it, we've only really been able to take it out in areas that are highly surrounded by water or in very densely packed urban areas, so doing a range test really wouldn't be very effective in the urban areas, as well as, you don't want to fly over people's homes and potentially have it crash land in their yard and not be able to get it back, or have it hit somebody. And we don't want to do these kinds of range tests necessarily over water, because it could make it almost impossible, if not totally impossible, to recover the drone. And you can see in the distance now we're approaching the end of the first sort of set of fields. There's a very brief tree line before we will turn left and continue into the next set of fields. At this point, we're about 1 mile away from the point of origin. The Mavic Mini is rated for maybe 2 to 2.5 miles, but we were not quite able to achieve that level of distance. Maybe if we were able to take it out and launch it from a higher altitude and have it sort of travel in a straight distance while the ground beneath it sort of fell, we might be able to. But Louisiana is very flat, so it was difficult to get it to maintain signal while we were very far below the drone. But I've seen others do videos where they started on top of a hill and they carry it straight forward for up to 2 to 2.5 miles in some instances. So the next time we're in an area like that, we'll make sure to try. We should be losing signal very soon, probably before we get to this next set of fields. Oh, yep, there it goes. And so I've just lost signal. I've stopped moving the drone. Although I did maintain control of the drone, I would be flying it blind. So maybe in the future we'll do a test where we can see how far we can take it when we know that there's nothing in front of us, like over these fields. So I've activated the return to home feature. It's rising up to about maybe 100 to 120 feet, because we know that that's enough to clear over these trees that are in between us and the drone. Actually, you can tell how how flat the area is. You can actually make out the house that we're sitting on the porch of out in the distance, about over a mile and a half away. It's actually very clear. Oh, and there it goes. For some reason, I don't know why the drone started traveling at an angle. So normally it wherever it's at, it turns, faces directly towards you, or the return to home point, I should say, raises up to its return altitude, and then travels in a straight line directly back to you. So without those object collision detectors on the more budget Mavic Mini, it's very important to make sure that your return to home altitude is at an appropriate height. So here I'm actually discovering you can maintain your return to home function while still turning the drone and operating the gimbal, which is pretty cool. So you can still maintain some control over your video and sort of use the return to home function to worry about the movement of the drone while you articulate it to capture what you want in your video. So that might be pretty handy in the future, and I'll probably test that out more just to make sure that that is indeed the case and you can actually articulate it the way you want to. Look at that. It's going to be a lot of sugarcane. I do enjoy, too, how they break up some of these fields with these tree lines. Kind of helps it, I guess makes it a little more scenic. I don't know if they do that on purpose or these are just the remnants of what used to be here before they started using this land for agriculture. On the way back, I turn the return to home function on or off, sort of seeing, whether I want to direct it back or if I want the drone to, test out how well it does on its own getting home. But I think right now I'm moving it over so I can take a straight line back to the house, and there we've got about almost at a straight line. We are raising altitude probably to, I believe we got up to maybe close to 200 or 300 feet. It was actually a very calm day today, so normally the higher you go, the more the winds will affect you. So what we've been normally flying it in is about maybe 9 to 10 miles an hour on the ground, so not enough to give you warnings, but enough that when you go up to about 100 to 200 feet, you would start getting warnings. Nothing that would throw the drone around, but enough that the controller could sense that there's strong winds and you need to be cautious with your flying. But very calm day this weekend. It was very ideal conditions. Beautiful, look at that. Another thing too is when you're shooting cinematic video, it's really, I like to be in the Cinesmooth mode because it just makes it so much easier to articulate the camera in just a very smooth way and make it just very, I don't know, appealing and soft and not have all these harsh ups and downs. But right now, just for the purposes of this video, we're in placement mode to try to, see how efficient we can be. I actually should probably do some tests doing this in sport mode versus doing it in placement mode and seeing if the battery runs out farther going faster or if it's really just about the distance that the drone has traveled. Here we have a great shot looking straight over the sugarcane. Oof, look at that. Something that's important though with the gimbal, if you try to make it look straight down at 90 degrees, because of the way that it's built, it actually absorbs a lot of the motion that the drone is experiencing due to small amounts of wind or the motor or other factors on the drone. And so the camera looks perfectly smooth, where the drone is actually probably shaking around a good bit, and the camera is held in the gimbal, very solidly. But when you turn the camera down at 90 degrees, if you were to suddenly stop the drone, the motion that the drone has to do to stop actually will a lot of times jerk the gimbal up, and sort of, if you don't want that in your shot, it's going to ruin it. Now we're turning towards downtown New Iberia, so that's probably about, I don't know, 2 to 3 miles west of our location. I'm actually attempting to do some sort of turn where I maintain a straight line course towards our location, back from where the drone went, while turning and giving a panoramic view of New Iberia and the surrounding area. So now we're facing due north and starting to turn towards Jeanneret. It's just great to see these areas from this vantage point. This is the first time we've taken it up in this area, and it's just incredible to see all that open space. And there you have the Bayou Teche, which is located behind the house, and that actually flows all over South Louisiana. You have more sugarcane on the other side and some more properties, and now we're actually already back at the house. I was kind of surprised when I finished this maneuver how close we had gotten. And now I'm going in for the landing. You can slightly make out the helipad that we've laid out on the front yard. And at this point, it's all manual control, although I should do some tests to see how the return to home function, how accurate it can be on windy and or calm days. We actually had some ducklings hatch earlier this week, so you might see some of them running around close to the pond. There's about 14 of them, we believe. And back to what I said earlier, making sure, if you're trying to get a shot where you come straight down on something, the gimbal will jerk up if you, well, one, when you land, it'll pull itself up, and two, if you were to move the drone backwards, it would jerk the gimbal up, because it would force because we're already at 90 degrees, which is the maximum angle you can turn the camera downward, but if you were to move the drone backwards, it'll force the drone to tilt backwards, and then that'll bring the gimbal up with it. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to get your shots. And now we're coming down right on the helipad. Oh, almost. Yep, right there. And as it says, it'll pull it up. And here we are.